My name is Steve Risser. I'm the Director of Athletics here in the Windsor Public Schools. I oversee the athletic program at the high school, which includes 27 interscholastic sports. We also have unified sports as well. And I also have oversight responsibilities at the middle school, Sage Park Middle School, where we sponsor 8 different sports each year. I had worked in sports information at the Naval Academy, then I went to Florida. I was an assistant to the commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference. After that, I worked at ESPN for 17 years. And when I was at ESPN, I decided in 2001, my son was 10 and my daughter was 8, and I was traveling about 150 days a year, and I knew I wanted to stay in athletic administration. My wife's a teacher. She's in the public schools. And we made a decision at the time. They were offering a package that I could take to leave the company so I could go on and do some other things, and I decided to do it. I just decided my family, I had to put my family over my job because I literally was gone half the year. So that got me interested. I used some of my education degree to go back and get my teaching certificate here in Connecticut. And 5 years later, I got my administrative certificate, and that qualified me. I really wanted to get into athletic administration. So really, I did some training at some of the CCC schools here in the region, sort of getting to know what it took to serve as an athletic director at the high school level. And then about 7 years ago, Betty Fieser was the superintendent here in the school district, and herself and the principal at the time was Russell Sills. They interviewed me for the position, and next thing you know, I was here 7 years ago. Well, I have a vivid memory of how it actually started. The vice principal at the time, Alan Strauss, was our vice principal, and my first year, my office at the high school was across from the counseling office, but the second year they moved me into the main office. So the athletic office then, myself and my assistant, who does other chores at the school as well, we were located in the main office, and in this, I think it was the fall of 2011, the vice principal came into my office and basically said, Steve, I really think that Windsor should have a Hall of Fame to recognize the athletes and create a legacy for our terrific sports program, because we really have a strong one. And and we talked about it, and the big decision we had to make was we were going to inform the principal we were thinking of it, and at the same time we had to decide, some towns have a Hall of Fame just centered on the high school, and other towns do it differently. They do it as a town Hall of Fame, where they include other people. And we decided initially that we would start it out as the Windsor High School Hall of Fame, and that's what it's called now, the Windsor High School Athletic Hall of Fame. So we did some preliminary, we talked to some people if they were interested in being on the committee. The initial co-chairs were Carrie Curry and her husband George, who are here, members of the community here. And they were the original co-chairs, and we had other people as part of that first organization. Celeste Over, who's still with us today, was on the committee. Barry Chasen was on the committee. Tiffany Nunes was on the committee, and I'll forget somebody here. Christina, the Board of Education president, Christina Santos, was on the original committee. So that very first year in the spring, we pulled it off in about 6 to 8 months. We had our first Hall of Fame induction ceremony in May of 2012, and that was in East Windsor. And then, we're headed into our 6th one now this year, on November 10th of this year, which we're very excited about. Well, first of all, let me take the opportunity to thank all the committee members that have been here for the last, this will be, like I said, this will be our 6th year coming up, our 6th induction ceremony, because it's been a phenomenal group of people that have just dedicated selflessly to really, I think the goal of the committee is to recognize the athletic prominence of some of the terrific athletes that have went through Windsor High School, and give them the recognition that we feel that we owe them from the past. I think the committee put some really important things in place. One of the first things they decided to do was you had to have graduated from Windsor High School at least for 5 years before you're considered. So I think that drove us to really look to the past. And I remember in our very first class, a gentleman by the name of Dick Teague was in that class from the 1930s. So we were very excited to have somebody, from that long ago to be inducted. And I think through the first 5 years, we've done a nice mixing of some of the older graduates of Windsor High School, of getting them inducted, along with some more recent graduates. But I think the goals are really just to, I think this committee's been very sensitive about trying to, very thorough and about trying to, they've really been very, very conscientious about the selection process, and they really want to make sure the people that they recognize represent Windsor very, very honorably when they were here. Well, I have to say this, Jen. I mean, I could have never anticipated that in 5 years it would be where it is today, and that's a credit to the original group of officers, and now the officers that we have now. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just thank them for a second. I mean, we have Tom O'Shea, who's actually a Hall of Famer. He's in the Hall of Fame. He was a pitcher at New Hampshire and obviously a pitcher here at Windsor High School. And we're thrilled that he's one of our co-chairs now, along with Sheila Martin, who also is in the Hall of Fame. She was a field hockey player and a softball player and a basketball player. So these people from the past just mean so much to us. And Barry Chasen, our former baseball coach for almost 40 years, has been on the committee since day one, and he's still on the committee. We also have Ellen Dogwitz, who Scarrow, I believe is her last name. She is on our committee and does a terrific job helping us out, terrific input. And Celeste Over, who's also was on the original committee, is still here as our treasurer, and she's been treasurer since day one. So I just want to thank that group. I think what we've done in 5 years rivals any high school athletic Hall of Fame I know of in Connecticut. I can't really speak for other states, but we've done quite a bit of research about what was going on in Connecticut before we started it, and I don't think anyone, I mean, our very first year we had over 200 people at the induction ceremony, and it's been very well attended. Every year it's over 100 people that have been there, and we look forward to a really nice gathering this year. I know we have a lot of enthusiasm with the inductees, so I think the sky's the limit. This year, for the first time, you may be aware, but it's going to be at the Marriott Day Hill, and we're really looking forward to being there for the 6th annual one this year. But it's tough for me to say, Jen. I mean, I think if it keeps going like this, I mean, really, it's just as long as we can continue recognizing the athletes properly. I mean, I don't really know that we could do much better than we're doing now, as long as we can maintain that.
What journalism has done?
Well, not surprisingly, I'm a big proponent of the combination of academic success and athletic success together. I mean, athletics can teach so many lessons, and we all say sometimes, we talk to the coaches and our student athletes, that we learn sometimes more from losing than we do from winning. And we do. The life lessons that you learn as being part of a team and a unit, and learning that a team is bigger than you as an individual, wow, that's so powerful. Because I know, I talk to many of our student athletes about how make sure this time in high school is so precious to you and so special, and make it about your teammates and do great things with your team, whether you're winning or losing, because you're going to remember those memories that you make and those connections you make. You're not going to remember your statistics. Believe me, I can't remember a single statistic from my career, but you're going to remember what you did as a group, what you accomplished as a group. So, and isn't that a great lesson in terms of how you work in the workplace, about making sure your company or your team or your organization is bigger than you? It's not about you, it's about what you do as a group. So it's huge, it's very powerful, and that can be translated to music, to band, to any other organization at the high school. We have some phenomenal groups there. So, how has journalism changed sports? Well, it's made us all, unfortunately, when it comes to I think high school still is sort of the pure sport, where I think coaches make a bigger difference than any other level, because, at college and pro, they get to pick their players. Here, we're in the public school. So whoever lives in Windsor, they have to live in Windsor to play on our team. So we get who we get, and it's very powerful to have coaches like Mr. Chasen and some of the coaches we have at the high school now that really make a difference with these kids. Because I think you can make a big difference at the high school level by training kids with the fundamentals and just garnering respect from. It really makes me excited when I see how much coaches get the respect from their players and their teammates. So you mentioned about journalism. I think what's happened is at the professional level, there's so much talk radio, there's so much in the media in general, not just print media, but everything seems to be how do we criticize people, how do we tear them down? Well, the wonderful thing about high school is we don't have that. We're talking about good stories. We just had a story in the newspaper the other day about we have triplets at the high school this year, Brittany, Amanda, and Carissa Brown, who are terrific. They were all born on December 3rd, 1999, and it's a wonderful story about how they're all going to Division I schools now. You can't get a better story than that. So that, I think some of our stories and what we deal with at the Hall of Fame, those are exciting stories about remembering the high school days. Hey, I love sports, obviously, my background, but I still think even the high school coverage in the state with like Friday Night Football that Channel 3 does, and I think you get more positive stories about high school than you do about the other levels.